Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. And welcome to my Math in the World series, the series where I talk about math and how it connects with and relates to different subjects. And these subjects include, but are not limited to, academic fields, professional fields, personal interests, different activities, franchises even. And all that being said, today we're going to talk about math and weather because it could be just about anything on this series. And that's the beauty of math and that's the beauty of this series, if I do say so myself. But let's get into it. So, when I think about math and weather, I feel like you can't really have weather as we know it without math. And part of that is just like the process of weather. When we're looking at what's happening in the world on a day to day, right? There's math behind everything that happens, whether it's snowing, whether it's cold out, whether it's rainy or stormy. There's math in all of that. And then when it comes to forecasting the weather, which is a big thing for a lot of people, there's a lot of math in that. And it's because at the end of the day, when we're looking at the weather and we're looking at the day to day and we're looking at what's happening over some period of time when it concerns the weather, right? We're measuring different things, right? Whether it be moisture, precipitation, temperature, etc. We're measuring different things and we're tracking different things, and there's math in all of that. And then when it comes to predicting what the weather will be like, that's chaos theory. That's chaos theory in that. And some of y'all might know it as the butterfly effect, but the big deal is like we have these like systems going on in the world and we're able to predict them, sometimes not reliably well, but over time we have a lot of tools that help us measure things out much better than when we started doing that. But the truth of the matter is it'll never be perfect because if you're dealing with a chaotic system, it's subject to very, very small changes, and that can just throw everything off. But again, we have gotten pretty good at it, and I think that's impressive. And there's a lot of math that goes into that, and I think that's all pretty cool. And then there's other things too, because I can like look in. Oh, well, look at snow for instance, right? There's a lot of cool things going on there. If you look at snowflakes, there's a lot of geometry in that. If you're looking into it even further, you're dealing with fractals, and that's pretty cool because fractals show up all over nature. And if you haven't Google searched fractals, like if you didn't do a Google image search on those, you might want to, and I should probably like leave some links in the description for that because they are pretty cool, and they're all over nature, and that's awesome. And when it's lightning out, hey, there's fractals there too, and also it's just cool. But there's a lot of math that takes place to have the Earth do what it does. There's a lot of math and forecasting the weather, and tracking the weather when we're tracking storms and all that good stuff. There's just so much to consider there. And then on a more meta level, there's the fact that you can make some money doing predictions, whether you are the person who is presenting the predictions or whether you're the person making the predictions, or in some cases if you're the person who's making the software that's making the predictions, right? There's a lot of math and all of that. And then to take things further, weather is so important to us because we're all like living here on this planet, and observing the weather and what it can do is so crucial. It affects our day-to-day life. So if we didn't have the map and we couldn't predict the weather as well as we do, then it impacts us greatly, right? Because it's like whether you're doing an outside activity or an inside activity, weather could play a factor depending on what type of weather it is. But it could affect food. It could affect entertainment. It could affect a lot of more things. So it's just like interesting to consider because we also have to have a good number sense, right, of things. And then with temperature, I feel like we have an excellent number sense with that. But if we want, we can have an excellent number sense concerning everything else that's being measured in weather. Anywhere from air pressure to precipitation, which I think we do pretty well. We understand pretty well. And moisture in air, and I think that's useful if you're talking about like humidity and how that can affect you. And so I think that's all pretty cool. And like when we have a storm approaching, whether it's a thunderstorm or like a severe sort of storm going on or like hurricane level stuff, it's interesting to consider all of the math that goes into that too, and tracking that and taking safety precautions. Because when you're taking safety precautions, or when your activities are affected by all this, or if you're making a career about talking about weather, money's involved, and you gotta have math in the money. That's just how it works, right? So I find that all pretty fascinating, and I don't know where it's headed in the future, but we have some pretty reliable systems right now, and I think that'll only improve during time. But I don't think it'll ever be perfect, because at the end of the day, we can't absolutely control things. Although we've gotten good at recovering for when changes happen, so I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, so I don't want to talk super long about this video, and I don't think there's a lot more that I want to say without getting into some crazy complicated stuff with it. But to do a quick recap, the idea is that when it comes to weather, there's a lot to consider. Whether it's how the weather works, how we view that weather, how we make forecasts, how that weather affects our activities as a whole and as a species, and just thinking about how crazy it all is. Because like when I've been talking about this, it's been largely weather and Earth, but the truth is we have weather in the universe. We have space weather, and that's awesome and kind of cool to think about because things happen out there. It's not just Earth, but yeah. So it's all pretty cool, and there's a lot of math and weather. And if you didn't think that there was, I hope you do realize that there is now, and that you find that cool, or at the very least interesting. That being said, I'll see y'all in the next video. Professor Prime out.